Zandra's Journey by Darron Contryman, Chapter 9. 1 hour and 1 shower later, Zandra went down to the lobby and found them waiting on a sofa by the door. "Okay, let's go," said Jim. "Where are we going?" asked Zandra. "Ever heard of the 21 Club?" "No, what is it?" "It's one of the most famous bars and restaurants in Manhattan, with a very interesting history. Many famous movie stars and presidents have dined there. It's just a few blocks from here." "Sounds fancy." "Oh no, not at all. It's—" started Carolyn. "Let it surprise her," said Jim. They walked down the street, past some shops and restaurants, then turned the corner and came up on an older building with tall, narrow windows. It had an ornate, antique black iron fence in front of it and an open gate. The entrance was covered with an awning and had 2 street lamps on either side. But what stood out the most was the row of colorful lawn statues of horse jockeys that lined the steps and the balcony above, which overlooked the street. Each jockey had white pants with shirts and caps of all different colors: red, green, black, yellow, and even checked. "Look at all the horse jockeys. Is this a horse racing bar?" These were statues given in the 1930s by different customers to represent the horse stables they owned. Jim opened the beautiful, shiny, gold-plated door and held it for both to walk in, where they heard the sound of jazz being played. "Look at the ceiling, Zandra," said Carolyn. "Wow, I've never seen so many toys hanging from a ceiling." Hanging above their heads were over 900 different objects, from model airplanes to tennis rackets. "These aren't just any toys. Look at this one here. This is the first toy ever hung here, a model of the Spruce Goose airplane from Howard Hughes. You know, the famous airplane builder and pilot. And that's a model PT boat from John F. Kennedy. And look at all the football helmets. Each one is from every owner of every football team in America." "Wow, what's that?" Zandra pointed at an ice skate that was to her right. "That's an ice skate from Dorothy Hamill, the famous Olympic ice skating champion. And that's a smashed tennis racket from John McEnroe, the famous tennis pro who often got mad at the referee and threw his tennis racket on the ground. A few strings were missing and one was loose." "Really? A pro would do that? Sounds like something Prince Arcadia would do." "I guess so. Some say it was just a tactic to scare his opponent." "Tell Zandra about the secret room downstairs," said Carolyn. The waiter gestured for them to sit at a table right under the toy she was looking at. "Well, back in the 1920s and early 30s, when this place first opened, alcohol was illegal. They called it prohibition. And so when government agents came here to look for alcohol, a bell would ring and the drinks on the bar counter over there could be immediately swept straight into the sewer below, making them magically disappear before an agent could ever make it into this room. However, they still had to hide their stock of good wine. Plus, they needed a safe place where important people could have dinner and drink. So they made a secret room in the basement, hidden behind a rotating wall that has a secret lock. The keyhole is so tiny and so deep in the wall that it takes a long, special metal wire to open it. They still use it today, and it has 20,000 bottles of wine still there, much of it private stock, some of it from President Nixon and Elizabeth Taylor. Zandra listened carefully and found it interesting, but she wished she could meet some of these people, not just hear about their historical toys and bottles of wine. She touched her necklace and rubbed the key. Also, Jim was suddenly interrupted by a waiter who handed them a menu. It was then that Zandra noticed an older woman had walked in just behind them and was seated right next to them. Then a man walked over and asked if she would sign an autograph. Zandra whispered and pretended not to look. "Excuse me, but who is this lady next to us? That guy just asked for her autograph." Jim and Carolyn both looked over slowly, but neither could recognize her face. "Not sure," said Jim. "I'll go ask the bartender. Wait here." Zandra and Carolyn looked at each other and pretended not to be eavesdropping on the next table. "Thank you so much," he said. "I really love your books, and I've read all of them but one." "Well, thank you. I'm glad you liked them," said the old lady in a slight Russian accent. Jim returned, walking quickly, and sat down. "That's Ayn Rand," he whispered. "Do you know of her?" "No," said Zandra. "Well, she's probably one of the most famous philosophers in America. I know of her books, but I didn't recognize her face. She was born in Russia but came to America when she was only 21, learned perfect English, and then wrote plays and even movies. but I think she's probably best known for her novels in which she tries to show her own philosophy of life." "Philosophy of life?" said Zandra. "I'd love to hear more. That reminds me, when I met Alexandre Dumas, he told me that there are those who have knowledge and those who have understanding. The first requires memory, and the second philosophy." The old lady turned to look at them. She had overheard Zandra say the word philosophy. "Hello," said Jim. "Good evening," said Ayn Rand in a slight Russian accent. She had short, straight hair and round, piercing eyes and a slight smile on her face. "We couldn't help but notice that you must be Ayn Rand, and I was just telling her that you write about philosophy." "Oh, well, I'm glad that you know of me," she said. "This is Zandra," said Carolyn. "She's here on a journey to gather philosophy, if you will, for a young Prince Arcadia who needs advice and wisdom for his future." "I'm afraid I don't know of Prince Arcadia," said Ayn. Jim went on to explain why Zandra had been sent by Prince Arcadia and whom she had met so far. "Well, I admire your effort. You know, the actions you take in your life depend upon your philosophy." Many people think they don't need a philosophy, but the question is not whether you need one or not. The question is which one you will use. Everyone has a philosophy whether they realize it or not. "It's nice to see you are trying to find one," said Miss Rand with a smile. "Thank you. I just wish I could be as creative as you," said Zandra. "Any work is creative if done by a thinking mind," said Miss Rand. "Just remember to use reason." "That reminds me, Ben Franklin said that if passion drives you, to always let reason hold the reins. Yes, acting on reason, not on your emotions, can be very powerful. Reason is the only thing that lets us understand reality," said Ayn. "And reason should be your only guide to action, not your emotions or whims, or other people's whims." "I see. So you mean that if we don't follow reason and just follow our feelings, we will avoid reality, and that will cause us trouble?" "Exactly. Anyone can evade reality, but we cannot evade the consequences of evading reality," said Ms. Rand. "I see," said Zandra. Prince Arcadia told Zandra that he first has to prove he is wise enough before he can inherit everything from his parents, Carolyn said. "Is there any advice you can give him that will help him?" "Well, in my opinion, it is only when Arcadia doesn't need his parents' money that he has finally proven he deserves it." "Why?" asked Zandra. "Only the man who does not need it is fit to inherit wealth, the man who would make his fortune no matter where he started." "So should I tell him that just earning money should be his goal?" asked Zandra, feeling a little disappointed. She had expected a philosopher to tell her something a little more profound than just to earn money. "No, money is only a tool. It will take you wherever you wish, but it will not replace you as the driver." "I see. So if our reason is in the driver's seat and our passion is what pushes us or drives us, as Ben Franklin said, then money could be the vehicle or the tool, as you say, that helps us get there. These ideas fit nicely together." Zandra felt proud that she had fit Ayn Rand's ideas together with Ben Franklin's. "But let me be clear, Zandra. Money will not buy happiness for the man who has no idea of what he wants," said Ayn. Carolyn and Jim laughed, and Zandra was busy writing it all down. "What do you think about the old saying that money is the root of all evil? Can't money be a bad thing too?" asked Zandra. "The man who damns money has obtained it dishonorably. The man who respects it has earned it. Money is the product of virtue, but it will not give you virtue, and it will not redeem your vices," explained Ms. Rand. "So, you mean money that is earned is good, but if it's not earned, then it's bad?" Zandra wrote as she asked. "Yes, if someone says that money is the root of all evil, I would ask them this question. Have you ever asked, what is the root of money?" "Never thought about it," said Zandra. "As I said, money is a tool. I mean, it's a tool of exchange, and it would never exist unless there are goods produced and men able to produce them. Money is the material shape of the principle that men who wish to deal with one another must deal by trade and give value for value. So you see, money is made possible by people who produce. Surely that is not evil, is it?" "No, of course not when you put it like that." A waiter took their order and left. "You're welcome to sit with us," offered Jim. Thank you, but I need to keep this table. My husband will be here soon. Ms. Rand, I can't resist asking a great philosopher like yourself, but what is the purpose of life? What is your philosophy? Well, my philosophy, in essence, is the concept of man as a heroic being, with his own happiness as the moral purpose of his life, with productive achievement as his noblest activity, and reason as his only absolute. Zandra asked her to repeat it and wrote as quickly as she could. Okay, let me make sure I got this. I have to explain this to a 14-year-old. So being happy is the purpose of life, and the way to do this is to use reason so that we can produce something of great value for others. Yes, and of great value to yourself, said Ayn with a smile. She looked so delighted to see a young person so interested in her philosophy. But what about helping others? You know, like self-sacrifice, said Carolyn. Self-sacrifice? Said Ms. Rand. But it is precisely the self that cannot and must not be sacrificed. You have to fight for your own happiness. Carolyn, I think she means that a productive man will naturally benefit others because of his work. He can still give to others if he wants to, right, Ms. Rand? That's right, but only if he wants to. He should never be forced to sacrifice to anyone, nor should he force others to sacrifice for him, said Ayn. I see, but it's just... Zandra paused. What? Asked Miss Rand. Well, if I tell Arcadia that he should fight for his own happiness, others will think he is selfish and cold, said Zandra. But why should you care what people will say? All you have to do is please yourself, replied Miss Rand. Zandra, I think she's talking about a different kind of selfishness. A good kind, not the bad kind of selfishness where people steal from others or trick them, right, Miss Rand? Asked Jim. That's right. Let me say it again to be clear. You might want to write this down. Productive achievement for the sake of pleasing oneself, not destructive selfishness that forces others or steals from them. I see, said Carolyn. When you put it like that, selfishness doesn't sound so bad. To be selfish means to value yourself, and the man who does not value himself cannot value anything or anyone, said Ayn. Yes, her definition of selfishness is different from what most people think it is, said Jim. Right, said Ayn. If we don't define things clearly, we just misunderstand each other. Definitions may seem boring, but they are the guardians of rationality, the first line of defense against the chaos of mental disintegration. Thank you, Miss Rand. I really appreciate this, said Zandra as she scribbled fast. Zandra began to think about all the joy she had brought herself and how satisfied she was that she had raised Waterfall for the palace. Your ideas remind me of all the thought and work I put into raising Waterfall, and in the end, it brought a lot of value to Prince Arcadia too, she bragged. That's a good example, said Ms. Rand. You produce value for others by pleasing yourself. You also said you came on this journey to get Waterfall for yourself. But look at the value you are producing for Prince Arcadia as well. It's that kind of selfishness that brings productive value and happiness to yourself. And how well you do your work is really the most important thing in life. Whatever else you are will come from that. So the ultimate purpose of life is to be happy and to work as well as you can to achieve it. That's a great message. What else should I know about this? You mean about happiness? Asked Ms. Rand. Yes, how would you define it? Asked Zandra. That's a good question. Too many people misunderstand it, I think. Happiness is... Ms. Rand paused to think and Zandra started writing, eager to get every word. Happiness is a state of non-contradictory joy. Ms. Rand paused again. What do you mean? Asked Zandra. A joy without penalty or guilt, a joy that does not clash with any of your values and does not work for your own destruction. Not the joy of escaping from your mind, but of using your mind's fullest power. Not the joy of a drunkard, but of a producer. In short, Zandra, happiness is the state of consciousness which proceeds from the achievement of one's values. I see. It seems to keep coming back to using reason to achieve something, using your mind. Zandra paused. Constructively, said Carolyn. Productively, said Jim. But what do you mean by a joy that does not work for your own destruction? Can you give me an example? Well, like eating or drinking too much, or doing drugs, for example. You might feel temporary happiness, but it will eventually destroy your body and mind, and that will certainly destroy your long-term happiness. I see. Sounds like what horses will do. I mean about putting reason over feelings. Horses will just eat whenever they feel like it. And when I raised Waterfall, I had to be very careful not to overfeed him. Horses will often overeat if you leave too much horse feed lying around, and then they can get deathly ill. Intestinal problems are the biggest cause of death in horses, you know. Anyway, I think now I really understand the concept. It seems pretty simple, said Zandra. But unfortunately, it's not easy, said Ms. Rand. Yes, I'd like to ask you one last thing if you don't mind. Neither the food nor Ms. Rand's husband had come to the table yet, and Zandra felt she still had a chance to ask something else, but she wasn't sure what. Go ahead, smiled Ms. Rand. Prince Arcadia will be a future king, so do you have any advice for him about government, or about how to rule his people? Well, first of all, Zandra, people should never be ruled. There's no way to rule innocent people. The only power any government really has is the power to crack down on criminals. But I thought we needed to rule people in order to have a society or to maintain our civilization. No, not at all. Civilization is the process of setting man free from men, said Ms. Rand. You mean protecting innocent people from bad people? Asked Zandra. Yes, I mean protecting people from force. Only criminals use force to get what they want, said Ms. Rand. So the government only has the right to go after criminals, right? Right. It never has the right to use force in the desire to do good. The government is there to protect individual rights so that the majority can never vote away the rights of a minority. Remember that there is no smaller minority than the minority of one. That is why groups don't need rights as long as the individual is protected. I see. That's an interesting way of putting it. Ms. Rand, do you mind if I ask you to sign my notes? It'd be great to show to Prince Arcadia, said Zandra. Sure. She reached for Zandra's journal and pen. Zandra handed it to her, and Ms. Rand wrote the following. The world you desire can be won. It exists, it is real, it is possible, it is yours. Ayn Rand. Thank you so much, Ms. Rand. This is a great message to Prince Arcadia. You're welcome, but it's not just for him, it's for you too. The waiter brought their food, and her husband finally showed up. As Zandra ate, she thought how similar her advice was to Walt Disney's advice, who had told her to think, dream, dare, and work hard. And he too had told her how important it was to like yourself, just like Ayn had said to value yourself. It seemed consistent, and she imagined that Ayn Rand and Walt Disney would get along very well. Soon they said goodbye, and Jim and Carolyn took Zandra to a Broadway show. It was more than she expected for her first night in New York, and she was feeling really satisfied with what she had achieved that day. When Zandra woke up the next morning, she decided she would fly to Hawaii and try to find Mark Twain. It seemed like it would be a fun place to visit, and it would also get her halfway to Asia as well. She bought a ticket leaving the next day and reserved a hotel. The Pink Palace Hotel where Mark Twain was staying was too expensive, so she reserved a cheaper one nearby. When Zandra had finished, she got on the subway and spent the whole day exploring New York City. This is the end of Chapter 9 of the novel Zandra's Journey by Darron Countryman.